Please stay tuned for Beyond the Bean on Air, a special presentation of the United Soybean Board.
Hello, thanks for joining us for this edition of Beyond the Bean on Air, the only TV show dedicated to keeping U.S. soybean farmers well-informed and profitable. I'm your host, Al Pell. Here's a quick look at what's in store over the next half hour. Leaders of the soybean checkoff get together again in just a few weeks. This after making some major decisions at the United Soybean Board's annual meeting late last year. We'll provide some details. Will sectors of the animal ag industry bounce back this year? We'll visit with the leader of one of the biggest users of U.S. soybeans. You'll also get an update on ways to ensure the seed you may want to buy does indeed protect against the most serious pest that reduces U.S. soybean yields. Those stories and more coming up, but first, the U.S. Census Bureau expects the world population to grow to over 8 billion in the next 2 decades. The United Nations believes world agriculture output may need to increase by 70% to meet food needs. Sharon Alseth explains how U.S. soybean farmers have started to figure out how they can meet demand to help feed the world.
Finding new ways to feed a growing population may be more important than ever. That's why the United Soybean Board and Soybean Checkoff have partnered with World Food Prize, an organization devoted to addressing world hunger. The Checkoff has made a commitment to help establish an educational wing in the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates.
We announced a contribution of $500,000 to the World Food Prize Foundation. $400,000 of that contribution will go to developing a Hall of Laureates in the old city library in the downtown Des Moines, Iowa. And $100,000 of it goes to helping develop an educational wing in the Hall of Laureates that we will design an interactive educational display that will highlight biotechnology and soy.
The Soybean Checkoff funded display will teach visitors about the value of biotechnology and its importance in increasing production of U.S. soybeans. One of the highlights of the interactive display will be a conversation recorded this past year between the late Dr. Norman Borlaug and Nebraska soybean farmer Chuck Myers, the immediate past chairman of the United Soybean Board.
Just imagine here are high school kids and college students and from around the world coming in, going to the educational wing, learning about what we have to do to confront hunger, and learning about and hearing from Norman Borlaug himself how he saw it.
I think that is important, and to tell the story of soybeans and how the part that they play, the role that they play in human nutrition and animal nutrition, and be able to tell that story in an accurate and scientific way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what Norm always wanted. To come in, let's look at the science, let's lay out the facts, and then we can go from there. That's what we can decide. And it's soybeans in particular. He had an awful lot to say and saw what the potential and the possibilities were and what an important role is going to be played in the 21st century in trying to feed all the people that are going to be on our planet.
Over the years, World Food Prize programs have often highlighted technology. So this new partnership aligns closely with the Soybean Checkoff's work to encourage biotechnology adoption worldwide and market access for new U.S. soy varieties improved through the use of biotechnology.
One of the things that we look to as a goal from the Biotech Initiative is global acceptance. And one way you attain global acceptance is education. Educating our folks here at home, educating leaders, agricultural leaders, about biotech and its importance in attaining that goal of solving world hunger. We have areas of the world that resist acceptance of biotechnology. So we feel that this partnership with World Food Prize tells a good story and tells the story that we need to have out there.
An increase in the acceptance of biotechnology will allow U.S. soybean farmers to be a bigger part of the solution to world hunger and grow the market for U.S. soy. I'm Sharon Alseth reporting for Beyond the Bean on Air.
Joining us now to further discuss the challenges and opportunities for U.S. soybean farmers as the global population expands is Iowa farmer Laura Fell. Laura and her family farm in northwest Iowa near the town of Shaler. Also joining us is Tom Reddick. Tom is an attorney from St. Louis. He works with the soybean checkoff to ensure U.S. soybean farmers don't incur undue liability from emerging technologies such as using seed improved through the use of biotechnology. And Laura, let's start with you. Now, you're a volunteer farmer director on the USB. You're also chair of the USB's Biotechnology Initiative. Why does soybean checkoff feel so strongly it needs a special initiative to address biotech seeds?
Well, as farmers, we know what biotech can do for us. So we need to involve the entire food chain, from the farmers to the processors, to the technology providers, to the consumers, to our domestic and our overseas market, to allow them to understand that we have sound scientific data that biotechnology works to help us have a sustainable food supply.
So the key there is scientific knowledge as opposed to what you're thinking about in your head, right?
Right. The scientific, and it needs to be peer-reviewed. We have a lot of knowledge that's out there that we don't believe that the science is peer-reviewed, founded, and this way we know that we have sound data that will show that soybeans can be produced in a sustainable way, whether you're using biotech, conventional, or organic.
Tom, I know you were kind of nodding your head as she was making some answers on that. The first, you were involved in the introduction of the first soybean biotech variety more than a decade ago at this point in time. Now, we're going to have to feed a growing population. Don't you think there's a realization that new biotech varieties will be able to help and maybe even be necessary?
Certainly, there's no doubt that the first biotech soybeans introductions was a bit rocky, but as we feed this growing population, we're going to need a steady stream of new biotech soybeans that can feed the 8 billion people.
Our first variety, biotech variety, was what, about 10 years ago?
Yeah, 1996, the Roundup Ready soybean was planted.
Okay, and now we were talking a little bit off the air about Roundup Ready 1, Roundup Ready 2, and this sort of thing. Now, how are we doing internationally with getting other countries to accept the biotech seeds?
Well, that's where the issues that I deal with for the soybean board come up, because we do have trade barriers that emerge overseas, but the soybean industry has had a great track record of getting overseas approval, even in Europe, which is very difficult. And the Liberty Link soybean is a good example. We waited and we waited, but we've got it in the ground now. We've got an alternative to Roundup, and Liberty Link will be followed by the DuPont GAT soybean, so different modes of herbicide management are coming down the pipeline. And this is very helpful because they'll all be approved in all the major markets of the world.
And that's pretty important because otherwise you can't sell in some markets, and you also have to maintain purity of the beans whenever you harvest them. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's what brings your soybean members into this whole thing, and that's one of the reasons they're concerned, right?
Correct.
Mostly, though, when the first biotech beans were introduced, we were talking about the benefits for farmers. Now, how about some of the increased initiatives with these biotech beans in terms of uses? And
you're right. The consumer has only heard about what the benefits are for the farmers. But let's talk about what's coming down the pipeline in the next 10 to 20 years.
Okay.
Or even sooner. We've got reduced trans fat in the soy oil. We've got higher omega-3 beans coming out.
That's healthy.
And that's healthy. That's heart healthy, which we're all trying to get a little healthier. And then there's also for the livestock producer, and this will also go for the consumer, the lower phosphorus in the manure for poultry. So there you have a win-win situation. You're getting less phosphorus in the manure, and then the smell will be different.
All happening because of biotech.
All happening because biotech.
I'm going to give you the final say here, Tom. You get the final say. How can the soybean farmers and their checkoff help ensure that new biotech soybean varieties achieve access in all the global markets? What do the producers need to do?
Well, there's no question that the policies we've had in place for years are working. We asked the grain traders to go to the seed companies and demand market approval in all the major markets. The new soybeans coming down the pipeline have got them in Europe and Korea, and I think doing that prevents the sort of liability you might see. When you don't have approval, they can trace it back to a farmer. There's cases in court now where they're trying to decide this. What do we do when we don't have approval? Well, if we have approval, we don't have that liability.
I guess one of the things, I know you don't have time to answer this perhaps, but the United States is only one of the countries that grow soybeans, and we immediately look to South America and that sort of thing. Now, are they capitalizing on the kind of work that you all are doing at this point in time with their beans? You're looking at each other. Is that a fair question?
Well, they are our competitors, but
Yes.
I'll tell you, they are competitors who used to try to avoid certain soybeans that weren't approved, say, in Europe. But Brazil is now starting to grow a couple of new biotech soybeans that, frankly, may not be approved by Europe in time. But we're thinking if they are smart as the United States, they will get this approved and they'll be shipping and we'll be shipping.
And the European Union, I was just at a meeting there, and they're looking at trying to have member states be able to cultivate biotech crops. So there is some movement underfoot in Europe.
Thank you both for joining me here today. Before we conclude this segment, let's take a few moments to recognize one of the world's most famous agronomists. Dr. Norman Borlaug, a winner of the Nobel Prize, understood the potential of biotechnology.
Too often we're concerned about what happens in 3 to 5 years. That isn't good enough for the problems we're facing now. It's an empty stomach. It's a miserable feeling. Too many of those advocating have never experienced the miseries of hunger. We know that we have to have new science and technology on the plant breeding front to give us better strains of soybeans and wheat, corn, all the basics.
Soybean farmers recognize the importance of biotechnology and the role it plays in the future of feeding the world.
We've got to train more people in more disciplines that bear on the programs that will confront us in the next 20 years. We have to have new liberal thinking that will carry us through the next 40, 50 years.